Welcome to the Feral Friends podcast, where we talk all things health, fitness, and PMOS. Today's topic is stop winging your workouts, the science-based structure that gets you results. If you want to learn how to plan effective workouts, this episode is for you, so stick around. Welcome to the Feral Friends podcast, where we talk hormones, fitness, health, healing, and the messy middle of becoming your best self. I'm Erica, your host, and I'm here to have the hard conversations to help you move forward on your health journey. And this is my co-host, Bentley, a dog we're watching. And the title of today's episode is Stop Winging Your Workouts, science-based structure that actually gets results. So today's episode, we are talking workout structure and how to structure your workouts effectively according to science. So the biggest thing when you're going to the gym is having an effective plan. So we're diving into how to make that plan to set you up for success. And the great thing about what we're learning today is you can apply it to any type of workout that you're doing, upper, lower, push, pull, you name it. We're breaking this down into 6 different steps and think of it like a pyramid. So you always want to start your workouts with the hardest thing while your energy and your mind is fresh, and then slowly move down to less taxing exercises. Before we get into it, I want you to understand why the order matters. Your body does not change based on random effort. It changes based on intentional stimulus. There's this thing called progressive overload, and that means your body adapts to increased stimuli over time. And it's our job to keep increasing that stimuli and making our workouts more challenging. When it comes to structuring your workout, there are 3 main drivers: mechanical tension, which is lifting heavy; metabolic stress, which is that burn, that pump feeling; and muscle damage, which is controlled fatigue. A well structured workout hits all 3 of those in a structured way. And here's a little stat for you: training larger muscle groups first increases your total strength output by about 10 to 20% compared to fatiguing yourself early. We're going to start with what I'm going to call step 0. And this is your warm up and mobility. You cannot skip this step, especially if you want to prevent injury. So before you even touch a weight, we're going to do things like leg swings, open the books, arm circles, hip openers, even body weight squat. And our goal here is not to stretch, it's to prepare your body to move and start priming those muscles for the movement they are about to do. They increase blood flow, range of motion, and ultimately help you perform better. Studies show that they can improve performance by 5 to 10%. But not only that, injury prevention is so underrated. Also, a little side note: the beginning of the workout is not the time for static stretching. You want to save that for the end when your muscles are already warm. Whereas mobility and dynamic stretching, you are warming them up with some active movement. So let's keep this to just 5 or 10 minutes and then you're good to go. All right, now we're moving into step 1, which is the actual workout itself. To summarize your entire workout structure, here's the order of the exercises you will be doing. First is going to be your compound lift, which we're going to get into. Second is going to be your hinge, or your secondary movement. Third is going to be any single leg or single limb work. Then we're going to hit some core. And then there's an optional finisher, depending on how much time you have. Then some cardio if you want, and then a finisher, and then some static stretching at the end. So let's talk about step 1, which is your compound lift. Any compound exercise is going to hit multiple muscle groups, hence the word compound, more than one. And this is your foundation of your workout, your bread and butter. Think squats, hip thrusts, deadlifts, bench press, and rows. These require the most energy, the most coordination, and the most nervous system output. It's extremely taxing on your central nervous system. And that's exactly why we do them first, because that's when you're at your strongest. From a science perspective, compound movements recruit the most muscle fibers. This is called motor unit recruitment. The more fibers you recruit, the more potential you have for growth. If you save these for later in the workout, you're going to be way too tired to get the maximum benefits. The number of sets and reps you do is going to be different based on your unique goals. The 4 main goals are power, hypertrophy, strength, and endurance. And I'm going to break those all down in a completely different episode. Make sure you're following me so you're notified for that episode. For your compound exercise, you're aiming for 3 to 5 sets of about 5 to 10 reps, resting anywhere from 1.5 minutes to up to 5 minutes in some cases if you're training for a powerlifting meet or something like that. Moving into step 2, which is your hinge pattern. So if you started with a squat, you're going to move into an RDL for your hinge, or maybe a good morning or back extension, possibly hip thrusts if you didn't start with them, but that would be a pretty tough workout. So what's the goal with the hinge movement? You're hitting the muscles at a different angle with more length and building volume on your workout. Research shows that muscle grows more when trained at different lengths, and the hinge gives you more of that length. So by now, we've worked your muscles in a stretched position and in a lengthened position, and that's going to improve hypertrophy, which is muscle growth. And for your hinge, you're aiming for 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps and resting anywhere from 60 seconds to maybe even 3 minutes. All right, step three, after your hinge, you're moving into single leg work or single limb work. And this is where a lot of magic happens. So don't leave it on the table. These include one of everybody's favorites, Bulgarian split squats, if you know, you know, step ups, single leg RDLs, B stance RDLs, single arm rows, things of that nature. Single limb work is crucial because we all have imbalances. One side tends to be more dominant than the other. Therefore, unilateral training helps to correct that. And there's actually research showing that single limb work will improve your bilateral work, meaning both limbs, anywhere from 10 to 15%. This work also increases core activation, stability, coordination, and injury prevention. So for this section, we're aiming for 2 to 4 sets of about 8 to 12 reps. And a lot of people skip the single limb work. Don't be one of those people. All right, step four is core. And I want to reframe this for you. Core is not just your abs, it's your entire stability system. In Pilates, they call it your powerhouse. I honestly like to superset my core with my single limb work. Just makes everything a little bit more efficient. So here we're thinking planks, dead bugs, hanging leg raises, even weighted sit-ups. There's tons of core activation exercises. I like to do TVA exercises, which is your transverse abdominals. Those are the abdominals that are really deep in your abdominal cavity, and they kind of suck everything in and hold everything stable. Your core stabilizes your spine under load. So if your core is weak, you're going to be more prone to injury, especially when it comes to squats and deadlifts. So the stronger your core is, the better you're going to perform in literally every other lift. It helps to transfer force more efficiently, which means more strength output overall. For this, you can do anywhere from 1 to 3 exercises. I usually do one and I superset it with the single limb work, 10 to 15 reps or 20 to 45 seconds if it's a timed one. If you want a really killer one, try hollow body holds, or even worse, weighted hollow body holds. They will murder your core. All right, now we're into step five, which is your optional finisher. Keyword here is optional. So this is where you might do things like sled pushes and pulls, maybe a quick hit circuit, body weight burnouts, or glute kickback burnout sets, anything that's gonna just burn out the muscle and push you to failure. I highly recommend doing machine work for your finishers because you can safely fail. So the goal here is a healthy metabolic stress, conditioning, and honestly just pushing yourself a little bit. I don't do finishers personally because I have PMOS, and this sort of thing can raise our cortisol, which is already very touchy as it is, and increase metabolic stress in a way that's not good for our bodies. So I encourage you to do what's best for your body and for your goals. Now, from a science standpoint, finishers increase lactate buildup, and that is linked to muscle growth signaling. So if you're somebody that's already dealing with a lot of stress, hormone imbalances like PMOS, I would suggest skipping this finisher because too high intensity can actually backfire, which is another reason I don't advocate HIIT workouts for people already under a lot of metabolic stress. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think most women should be skipping finishers, especially if you're perimenopausal or menopausal and your hormones are not in check. In most cases, women struggle with that, and it only gets worse with perimenopause and beyond. So just consider this part carefully. Next up is cardio. Now, for cardio, you have a few options. You can do it after your workout, you can designate an entire day for cardio. What I like to do is just daily walks. Because again, that is hormone friendly for people with PMOS or under a lot of metabolic stress. But the biggest thing you need to avoid is doing heavy cardio before your lift because that will drastically decrease your strength output. And honestly, walking is one of the most underrated tools for fat loss and health. So think about the goals that you have. Are you an athlete and you're aiming for a better race time? Do you enjoy interval sprints? Or are you just looking to keep your heart healthy? For me, PMOS, I just do daily walks, try to get 8 to 10,000 steps. If I do cardio on the treadmill, I keep it low intensity, but with incline. So I do an incline workout. And sometimes I'll do that in an interval. And I definitely don't do them for very long. Walking improves insulin sensitivity, doesn't stress out your body too much, and helps with recovery. Our last step is static stretching and cool down. And this is where you're actually going to be holding the stretches. And we're trying to hit it all: hip flexors, glutes, hamstrings, shoulders, back, all of it. So this improves your flexibility and reduces that tight, stiff feeling from after your workout. So unlike dynamic stretching like we did in the beginning, this is where we're slowing things down a little bit. This definitely helps with recovery and mobility long term. And we are aiming for 5 to 10 minutes. So let me give you a full example of what an entire workout could look like using this structure. You could start with hip thrusts, 4 sets of 8, then go into your hinge, your Romanian deadlifts for 3 sets of 10, go into Bulgarian split squats, 3 sets of 10 on each side, cable kickbacks, 2 sets of 12, some core work. Again, you can superset it into those previous exercises, optional finisher, and then cardio if you want it, then stretching at the end. And there you have a complete workout. This could last anywhere from, if you're really moving, 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I usually spend about an hour and a half for my workouts, but I do take long rests between each of my sets because my goals are different. I'm training for a powerlifting competition, so my goal is strength, and therefore I'm doing a longer rest. And having PMOS, I don't want to overly stress my body, so I make sure I give myself lots of rest and take my workouts pretty slow. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Structure creates results. Start with your biggest, most demanding movement and then get more specific as you go. You don't need to do more in the gym. You just need to do the right things in the right order. And once you have that down, everything gets easier. I hope this podcast episode was helpful to you. If it was helpful, please share it out to somebody who could also benefit from it. Sharing this out really helps to grow my channel. So thank you for doing that. And follow me for more fitness, health, and wellness content. I am only slightly feral on all the platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and I am the Feral Friends podcast on YouTube and Spotify. And if you want to take the guesswork out of planning your workouts, I have created a 12-week foundational strength blueprint. The great thing about this blueprint is it hits all of our compounds and builds that foundational strength to get you started and get you consistent and get you going on your strength journey. The best part is it's less than a cup of coffee. I think it's $2.99 right now in my link tree. And how often are you going to find a whole strength training program for 12 weeks for $2.99? It is the one I use personally to help me get started on my strength training journey and build my confidence. I'll have it linked below in the show notes. And thanks again for watching and listening today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.